Small. Wow, tiny.
You are currently listening to Tiny Table,
where we explore TTRPGs you might not have heard of.
Whether big or small, we hope to cover them all.
Because we know that great things can come in tiny packages.
Small salutations. This episode of Tiny Table is sponsored by us. We're excited to announce that our Patreon has two new tiers, the mini tier and the micro tier. The mini tier, which starts at $5, allows patrons to vote on upcoming games, as well as choose an NPC that Neil will draw every month. The micro tier, which starts at $10, allows access to Side Table, our monthly bonus episode, which will cover a variety of topics relating to TTRPGs and beyond. Micro tier patrons will also receive the benefits of mini tier and a custom shout out at the end of each episode. Thank you so much for your support, and let's get started.
Kids on Bikes is dead. Grab your safety scissors, grab your Girl Scout sash, and get yourself a juice pouch while you're at it as we get ready to dissect in this post-mortem.
Doodly-doo.
Doodly-doo indeed.
Happy kids on bikes, y'all niñas
Happy
en bicicletas.
Oh, what a fun time.
Yeah, especially as the one that I said in the beginning was the one that I really want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to start with a quick round robin of like as a game itself. Like there were things we liked about the adventure, but as a game, what were our favorite elements of the design here?
I'd like to say that I really liked the character and town creation segment of Kids on Bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really fun to have it be a communal, creative experience. I love that we all got to come up with like the name of the town, what the school mascot was, rumors about the town. We all get to come up with a rumor for the town. I think that kind of collaborative storytelling and allowing us to bounce off of each other felt really cool and not something that I get to do very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to kind of bounce on that's something that was very, very enjoyable for me. Julian, you sent us messages to kind of like, hey, pick out these things about your characters, but also give us these things about the world. And to kind of go into like a bit of small like personal relation to that, on one of my personal games that I play online, our dungeon master for D&D, Cyrus, does something like that every single session where we are deciding key traits about NPCs, key locations, interesting facts about things we're discovering, and are actively helping to world build. And it is easily my favorite part of every single session. And so to have that emulated here was just really engaging and was really, really fresh, because I feel like in a lot of games, the DM holds most of the cards, and to have those passed out to the players, really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. I think also an element of that I really enjoyed. First off, we're 2 for 2 on games where one of the most fun parts is character creation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who, I might hew a little away from a lot of the TTRPG ethos that's popular these days, I think the act of creating a character by itself is not de facto fun unless the system makes it fun. Mm-hmm. I find making D&D characters, for example, to be incredibly tedious because it's just unless you contort the system in a way to make it enjoyable, it's a lot of just spreadsheet fill-in. But here, the thing I want to highlight is the character interpersonal questions are impeccable. I love that it's randomly rolled, but I love that they give you an explicit thing of like, listen, if you roll a thing that just hews so far away from what we've established up to this point that it just doesn't track, please just roll again. Mm-hmm. Don't like bend over backwards to force every option to work. Yeah. But I think we only did that one time, and
just fine.
The results of them, the thing I liked about the character questions is that they were points of dramatic inflection. They weren't just questions like, what's their favorite color? What's the kind of hat do they wear? Like, it was all things like, why would you die for this person? Or what has this person done that deeply wounded you? And it's the type of thing that gives you things to hang your dramatic hat on top of the more fun, top-level social dynamics of the characters. It gives you kind of get to step in with immediate subtext. It feels like you've played a prior campaign just by default.
yeah, they weren't like surface level questions. They went deeper, and it forced you to explore not only your own characters, but the others. But that said, I know Holly, you said you were really excited about this. What did you think?
Yeah, so I guess kind of going away from, I liked all the things that we had said before, but the thing that I liked, thing that kind of drew me to this, so I know that exploding dice isn't exclusive to the Kids on Bikes like franchise. I know that happens in Savage Worlds too, but I do like the exploding dice. While it never happened to me, it was always really exciting when it would happen to someone, and especially the system of having not just like, oh, everyone's rolling a d20 and you're hoping to get it, that you know every skill is attributed to a die. I felt was exciting because there were moments of like, okay, we gotta hope that we do this, or like, oh, this is so easy for me, I'm going to just, if it's a prepped one, I'm just taking the half of this. I liked it. It was very much like a turn away from what I'm used to. It's very unique for me.
In relation to that, I think also the difficulty table is relatively elegantly designed. I might have like a few notes for it, but overall, the way it's laid out is that you get a number. I like that you get a range of numbers, so it gave me a little bit of wiggle room to go inside of it. I had some points in the journey where I would like explicitly say, I'm going to set this at the low end of this descriptor range because of the circumstances. And that felt like it gave me a little bit of DM tooling. But the descriptions are things like, a task where success is impressive but completely expected for a character who's skilled in it, and then it gives you a few examples like a strong person prying open a heavy locked door, a computer whiz repairing a computer quickly while under pressure. Just that's a pretty economical use of space. That's 3 sentences, and I have a pretty good sense of what would fall within and without that. So, you know, if you compare to something like 5e where it's like 5 is easy and 30 is almost impossible. I'm like, yeah, okay, but easy and impossible for who? And it's not really an actionable thing I can really think of, and ultimately you're just going to use the DCs as a sliding like level adjustment scale anyway. So this, I felt like it was a much more immediately actionable table to work on. Like I was flipping to that page constantly, and I feel it never really let me down.
Yeah, I really also liked that the DRs were stated often before the roll or the conclusion of the roll, so that it was something that we were thinking about and working against, right? How many adversity tokens do we have? What are our strongest skills? How can we overcome this DR? And, you know, if we are expected to fail, like for example, if you were rolling against a DR of 8 and you had only a 6 max for that die, you know, what could you do to either get only a certain one under, or, you know, like less than 5 under? There's a lot of mental strategy that was able to occur because of a stated DR, unlike in D&D where sometimes that is an obscured quality.
Yeah, and I think just in terms of, again, I do just really like the fact that the way that everything is aligned, at least in terms of character stats, is with different dice, because look, I be rolling d20s all the time. Never, like hardly ever, unless you play like one specific, you know, class or have one specific weapon type, am I rolling like a d12 or many of these other things. I like, very simple. I just like that I got to roll different dice.
Yeah.
It's the simple pleasure.
It's the simple pleasures.
It felt cool and appropriate to be like, I'm not so good at this skill, I'll roll the dinky dice, or like, I'm super, you know, awesome at this skill, I'll roll the big one.
Yeah, and even in addition to that, there is something kind of interesting, and again, it didn't happen this play session, but just thinking about like the math of the system is you're much more likely to explode on a D4 than you are on a D20. Your lowest skill has a pretty high potential to explode even multiple times because the odds of doing so are greater than with your more proficient dice, which I think is really interesting.
I think it's pretty elegant design, right?
Yeah,
it's really cool design.
This is kind of going away from it like a little bit, but something I really liked was also the kind of deep dive it sent the 3 of us in of exploring our past inner children and who we were when we were 12 and who we would have been if we were 12 in 2001. And it was really fun. It was something that we, before the game, had like days of just being like, oh my god, this album came out this summer, or oh my god, we would definitely have done this. And it's very joyous. And as someone that was a Girl Scout when I was a kid, it was very lovely to share that with my friends.
Yeah.
I know that something we've talked about, or we had this as like a previous segment, but I know that there is one thing I liked so much that I would steal because it is something that we actively use in our own D&D game currently, and it's the idea of adversity tokens, where failure gives you a little token, a little coin or a trinket that you can spend to then increase your rolls, or sometimes even help and increase your partner's rolls. In our IRL D&D game, when we hit a nat 1, we are awarded inspiration. And I think the idea of awarding failure is really good. It takes some of the sting out. And of course, only when it's appropriate. You don't want to make failure seem meaningless, but it's a small enough token to be like, hey, you didn't get what you want, but now you have potential in the future. I think that is great design.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a game that I do have some critiques of, like the math of it, and I think the structure, we'll get into those in the critiques section, but I think the adversity economy is actually pretty well tuned. Like we went up and down and up and down and up and down. We never had more than 4 on the table total, I think. Maybe
Yeah.
5 at one point between all 3 players. They were getting accumulated quickly enough, they were getting spent quickly enough. There are strengths that overlap with adversity in interesting ways. Some folks get more adversity, some folks spend adversity more effectively when helping than when using it for themselves. I think adversity is the best designed element of the system on like a game mechanical level, because a lot of the stuff we're talking about is things that engage us on a dramatic level, but in terms of like the engine of the system, I think adversity is the best tuned component of it.
See, it's kind of funny that you say that, because for me, I wanted more adversity, mostly because I love to win.
Yeah. One final thing I want to mention that I love so much that was both a dramatic element but also a gameplay element later on was building the backpack, because I gotta say, I am a backpack cultivator. Like in my day-to-day life, I care so much about what is in my backpack to deal with X, Y, and Z situations, and being able to do the same thing of not only like, oh, what was in my backpack as a kid? Like, oh, I totally would have had Pokemon cards, but also like being like, oh yeah, I probably would have had like an underwater flashlight because my dad's in the Navy, and like, you know, he'd always want me to have one. And then that coming up in the game later on and having the item which I already said I had, dope.
It was really cool.
Yeah, getting to use things like bass strings or like a skateboard or like even makeup, like it makes every small little thing really matter. And I like that you can also include intangible items like support or a loving family, as well as tangible ones in your backpack. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the last book of the Animorph series really did play a pivotal part. I think that won't get cut out at the end. I really hope not. I thought that was a real cheerjerker, but I liked that. It's like one of the few times you don't have to be like, all right, how much starting money do I have, and can I afford this? And there's a lot of freedom, and I think it comes with a lot of trust at the table that no one's going to abuse it.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah, it gets into an element that I think is a strength of this game until it's a weakness of this game, which is, I think, our pivot into some critiques we have of the system.
Yeah, nice little transition.
Which is, this game has a lot of trust in its players. I think this game has a little too much trust in its dungeon master, or in its game master, in terms of what the game gives in terms of systemic support for its storytelling. It's doing a lot of like, hey, you know, you can have what kids have, but nothing more. And I think that level of open-endedness in the design is totally okay. But there are a lot of elements, like this game has a section in its book that's about like, all right, DM, here is your guide on what to do on the designing and adventure side of things. And I could go on a whole tangent here about there just not being enough mechanical support, but I think a thing that a huge amount of our critiques is going to boil down to, because in our interstitial discussions, all of them kind of echoed this core theme. this is a game whose core aesthetic is about exploring a mystery, but it also has aspirations of being a game that's about narrative collaboration, and everyone brings their own stuff to the table, and you can all kind of share narrative control. And it does, I think, in my opinion, it does an actively bad job of telling the game master how much they're supposed to prepare, and in giving the players tools to feel confident to contribute to the world. It's a lot of like jockeying with each other and feeling kind of uncomfortable. There were points I had to like ask you, Skippy. I'm like, all right, the game tells me, Skippy, that you have narrative control, but I, the DM, knows where things are going next. So unless I want to throw out the prep the game asked me to do earlier, I guess I just have to take it now. A lot of moments like that where I just felt like the game just said like, you've seen E.T. and Stranger Things and stuff like that, you know, do one of those. And I was like, those are regarded as good TV shows and movies because people who've studied script writing for a decent amount of time put a lot of work into it. I'd love some of those tools.
Yeah, I think definitely after our like first or second session, I was like, I don't like this. Like just like so upfront of, I think it is smart, especially on a dungeon or game master, to, you know, when there's an NPC-esque character, you know, when it comes to abilities, yeah, have the players run those. When it comes to the roleplay, I don't really, I mean, I get the aspiration of it, but I don't really get how it is supposed to work, especially in a...
And you're speaking of the powered character,
yeah, of the powered
specifically,
character,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, so the powered character is, the idea is that we all are supposed to control role-playing them and also playing them just in general, which to me is silly, because part of the reason of this is kind of this 11, this ET, this
Alf.
this whoever
Alf!
whoever the person is.
Reset the clock, folks!
Remember Alf? He's in Pog form now.
And whoever
Pog
is the
Alf.
person in Super 8, I think they did that in Super 8 too.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers
It was
Super
Alpha.
8?
It was Alpha in that also, surprisingly.
Yeah, it was.
I've met the director of Super 8.
Oh yes, you have. It, like, they're supposed to be the inciting incident. How am I supposed to know what they think or think? Like I get like, oh yeah, there's some amnesia. I don't know them, and like that's kind of the joy, is that I spent all this loving time making my character with my friends, and I'm supposed to share this one character that's supposed to give us quests, but also we're supposed to roleplay, but also they have powers, but also what?
But also the powers should be a mystery.
Yeah, so it didn't work for me, and that's why you didn't hear me really roleplaying as him a lot, because I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of speak to both of your points, I feel like I get what they're trying to do. The game wants a supernatural element, and to only give superpowers to one character might make the players feel like they're missing out on a cool part of the system, you know? Like, the players are gonna want to engage with powers.
Yeah,
like,
you mean I'm playing a Stranger Things game, but there's no way to play as 11.
Yeah.
It's the complaint you can hear the imaginary playtesters making, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like they tried so hard to prepare in advance of those complaints. Like, oh, we'll introduce a power character, and everybody has access to them. Because
it's fair.
Yeah, because it's fair, which I think is well-intended but poorly executed. Because there was something really, really interesting that I liked, that we each got like a couple little aspects of this character. Like when you were passing out the note cards of like, you're gonna control the amnesia, and you're gonna do this power, and Holly, you're gonna have quick. I was excited by the premise. But once it got past the surface level and into the actual execution, the only word I have for it is awkward. It's
clunky.
It's clunky. Because I don't feel like it's in my right as a player to establish such strong narrative control as to potentially spoil the mystery or potentially ruin any preparation that the dungeon master has done beforehand. And if I'm just being honest, like, aside from getting to like roll the dice a few times, it wasn't all that fun. We stopped doing the character's voice and like stop doing the character's actions by the second session. Like if you listen through sessions 2 and 3, not Holly, me, or Neo. Maybe Neo.
Nah, Neo still did the voice. I was very proud of them for committing.
I'm a professional.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Neo committed. Neo was also, I think, the only person whose dice exploded. Not that that's related at all. Just a fun, interesting
Sounds
thing.
like somebody's jealous.
I am.
like a
I wanted to
skill
explode
issue.
so badly. It is a skill issue, and I am ashamed. But yeah, it was just a little disappointing because the premise got me really excited, but then the execution just wasn't quite there for me.
Yeah, it is awkward to share a shared character, especially when some traits would either butt up against others or it was difficult to share the stage. But at the same time, I also kind of understand if the DM gets to play the superpowered 11 character, then that's just the DM gets to play the power fantasy, and we all just we get butt kissed.
Yeah, it feels like a
But
DMPC.
at the same time, you know, I got lost. I put a lot of love into crafting Ash, and there were so many elements of their personality that I wasn't able to showcase or do. They were gonna do Pokemon impressions. It was gonna be funny, but I didn't
Do
have
one now.
Charmander.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Nah,
pretty
nah,
good,
Pretty
pretty
good. Pretty
good.
good, Ash.
Bulbasaur.
Pretty good.
Look, every good thing's coming threes. I know you got one more in there.
Pikachu.
Yeah.
It would have been cool, but
Got a Dartrix in there.
I can drop a silent but deadly, I guess. That one Neo
That
in
won't
real
pick up
life
on
can
Mike.
do, but not on command and not voluntarily. It just happens. But at the same time, you know, I didn't have time to care about that or show that off or look for moments to showcase that because I was too busy trying to figure out, you know, giving Reed a personality at all. Like, I took a moment to be, you know, like, was I born a criminal? Like, to try to give
I
Reed...
think that was the best, most successful moment of this.
Thank
and
you.
there was one of them.
Yeah.
Because not only, you know, this might be a little easier with a non-one-shot style of game where you all have more time to develop the characters, but at the end of the game where it's like, Reed has his friends, and I'm like, I don't think we spent enough time together to become friends because I didn't have I was kind of riffing with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely made Reed just your friend at the end because I didn't want to have to deal with the ramifications of a 35-year-old with an 8-year-old's brain wandering around in Georgia. Like, that just feels like a recipe for just bad things. And, you know, the point of the end of the ET story is things kind of magically get a little bow on them and the police don't get that concerned about anything that's very concerning to the police. So we put a little magic on it there at the end. But ultimately, a lot of this comes back to this idea that, like, the powered character feels like they're designed to answer the kinds of complaints that a D&D player has. They're like, oh, I want to do the power fantasy. And I'm like, E.T. isn't a power fantasy, and neither is 11, and neither is Alf, dude. As much as we might believe. But, like, these
Alf
are
is
characters...
my power fantasy.
These are characters who exist to incite drama, mystery, action, and confusion into narratives. They're not the types of characters who, in traditional narratives, are the characters you want to be controlled by a player or all the players. They're not the ones with, like, agency and motivations and a goal and an arc. They're the ones... They're there as a plot element who happens to have a face. Like, you know, 11 is a PC by season 2 of Stranger Things. Once we know her, and we know how her powers work, and we know her limits, and she's no longer a mystery box, she's a person. Then she's a PC, if we're putting that in, like, gamist terms. But this game has a lot of tension it runs into by wanting to play in a genre that needs mystery to function, but also just wants to give out a bunch of tools to all the players, but it doesn't want to be specific with those tools. Like, if there were things like
almost too
the-
open-ended.
Yes, and, like, I like the difficulty rating table. I have much less that I like about the success versus failure table. I think it's perfectly serviceable, but I think a single pass edit on that table could bump this game's, like, rating in my brain up a whole rank. Every single one of them, even the very highest ranking, is like, at GM's discretion, you might do a little something more than you planned, and it even, like, tells you in the final one, like, but it's not necessary. And I'm like, yo, if you want to be a game about narrative control, write mechanics about narrative control into your system. Have it be that if the player gets 4 above or higher, they're like, you have full narrative control here. You say what the next thing that happens is, you are in like, and give them a framework for like, introduce a plot element that gets your characters further. And then more success is like, introduce a twist that changes the direction of the mystery. Here are some examples. Like, if that was there, I think the players would feel like they have the tools and the prompting they need to engage with a collaborative, mysterious story. As it stands, it just feels like it kind of wants to have a collaborative cake and eat a mystery, and it hasn't figured out the recipe of how to do that.
Yeah, I think to kind of go off on that, and like what I think my suggestion might be for people who are like picking this game up themselves is, I think just give the powered character, just give whoever's going to be the DM full control over the powered character. I think that's gonna shorten a lot of like whatever tension we're rubbing up against. But I think what is important is give the powered character specific flaws that can only be supported or executed through the players and through the characters they have created. You gave us a baby who knows nothing about the world, who doesn't know like how to get from one place to another, and like I didn't care about playing him because I felt cool as Sam. I felt cool like, oh, we know where the jail is. We know how to solve this issue. I know how to fight a cop. Like, like those things made
Our
me
greatest fantasies.
Exactly. Like I got to engage in things that made me feel cool and powerful and special without me having powers. I don't care that I can't touch someone and fast forward them in time. I didn't feel like I missed out on anything at all because the nature of the powered character gave a lot of control to us as players. And I think that's very important to establish if this is a game that you think you might run for yourself, which I do think you should. I think I had a lot of fun at the end of the day despite all the complaints.
Yeah, like maybe there's a different world where we could try another pass at Kids on Bikes, learning what we've learned from playing it, and sort of modify the powered character a little bit more to either make them someone with more or less agency, if that makes sense. This might work better if the powered character is non-human. I'm getting the distinct vibe that this must be some kind of alien or creature, because if it's human, it's too difficult to juggle playing a half character. But if it's non-human, maybe it might be easier. That's just my guess, right? I don't know.
I also think something to be noted is that, maybe in another pass of this, the characters would spend more time with this powered character.
Yeah,
because
that too.
To be fair, this only took place over the course of a couple hours, maybe half a day.
Yeah, this was a one shot.
Yeah, and this was a one shot that I explicitly put a very hard ticking clock on because I wanted to keep us peppy and punctual. But the game itself also is written in such a way where it's like, only focus on the action scenes. Like, don't waste time milling about. But this genre kind of only works if you get to kind of like roll up and smoke a joint with E.T. for a little bit, so you care about E.T.
That feels so backwards to me because I felt the thing that engaged me the most into Kids on Bikes and made me the most excited to play was all of the character building and was all of the role play and was getting to engage with fucking Jamie or whoever.
Jamie.
And Smelanie.
And Smelanie. It's one of those things where I think take this with a grain of salt because we had to sort of expedite our play process. I think this is a game that will, even more so than I think like Merkborg, the more you put in, I think you will get more out of if you give yourself room to breathe and actually explore the characters you have so lovingly created.
In the rules of the game, it does suggest that you will gain more from this game the longer you play it. And there's even a specific mechanic about creating a coda at the end of your session, which is like a sort of greater summary of like what transpired and how your characters grew and changed. This was an element we were unable to tap into because it was a one-shot, but how your characters grow and change is an important element of Kids on Bikes that we didn't explore, that is explicitly part of the game's ethos, is to, over time, learn more mysteries, learn more answers, and learn how your characters grow, develop new fears, conquer their fears, and things like that.
See, and I didn't even know that was a mechanic, and just hearing you explain that, I'm like, wow, that seems so cool, and like makes me want to, like, I would love to just play and explore the world of Greensboro with these three teens, like I'm just so attached to the Sam squad.
It's so silly to me, I guess, to imagine, I don't know, maybe I've just played enough of my like TTRPG power fantasy that I'm like, I was so happy to play a Girl Scout.
Yeah.
I at first when I was going through, I saw powered character. I was like, oh, I guess like you could play. I don't want to do that. Like I had no inclination. That's why like my heart, I kind of was like when it was like, okay, we're sharing the powered character. I was like, okay.
Well, let's just save that for when we play like a superpower TTRPG in like a few months.
There's like the very cynical take I have of like, man, this is a game that you should use all the character creation rules and town creation rules to flesh out a setting and then use that setting in Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Like you should use a better designed game for the gameplay part. And that's too cynical because there are elements of the conflict resolution that I do actually quite enjoy, and there are elements of the engine I quite like. I think we're coming off maybe a little more negatively than we actually felt. It's a fun fact for those listening at home. Critiques are much more interesting to talk about than praise most of the time. So it's easy for those critiques to get longer. I did genuinely have a lot of fun with this game.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think there are a few
yeah.
tweaks it could undergo to really elevate it, but I think this game is at its strongest when it is succeeding at evoking what you want it to be about. When it lets you feel like you're in one of those E.T. Alf stories. I'm dropping Stranger Things entirely. I don't care about the show. And I think
Alf,
that in future editions, I know they've just released a second edition. I did not have time to read that before this podcast, but I know that its changes are relatively scanned and the core engine is basically identical. But if they do a third edition, I think they would benefit from giving the folks who've stuck around all the way to a third edition, giving them a little more mechanical support to hold up the fantasy they're advertising. That's my main note.
Yeah, I think, to your point, I think the only reason I feel so like comfortable giving all the criticisms that I have is because I genuinely had so much fun. I was so invested the entire time. Like it, again, I think because it is so strong in the character development department, I could watch them watch TV. Like I could have these characters like watch paint dry together. Like I was so that invested. I had so much fun. And so I only feel the ability to critique so hard because I genuinely love the system and just want to see better for it. I'm actually really excited to see what their second edition is like.
Yeah, and kind of jumping off that of just like, I had a lot of fun. And just the advice I would have to any GMs looking to run this or groups looking to run this is just have a talk ahead of time of if running the powered character together is something that you are interested in. Because I'm sure there are some groups that are like, oh yeah, this sounds like so much fun. Our specific group, we get super into our characters and our like specific characters. So it didn't work for us, and probably if we ever ran this again, we would just know that ahead of time and not do that and not have as hard of a friction. So I think for GMs going forward, just kind of throw that out and be like, what would you prefer?
Doesn't have to be Weekend on Bicycles.
Yeah, I don't know if I fully agree with that. I'm not totally willing to throw out the powered character. I like that this game is a collective narrative storytelling game, that we as players have a little bit more hand in what the powered character is capable of doing, or like how it executes, the world and this narrative around us. I think Kids on Bikes is probably a little more successful through a longer play session, right, where mysteries can be uncovered, and just sort of gives everyone a little bit more room to breathe and live as their character, which doesn't make us feel so squished around the powered character, which allows them to sort of grow and develop in their own fascinating and unique way, which allows everyone to be like, okay, I can play, Ash and fully live Ash, and I can still like contribute to bringing the powered character to life. Right?
Yeah.
I agree. It's a game you gotta roll up and smoke a little bit, TV.
Yeah, this is
Smoke a little.
This is a little bit, I think, of a longer game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't just want to take it all in one shot. You gotta nurse your glass a little.
A little bit. Yeah. Well, we've nursed our glass on this post-mortem quite long enough. My juice pouch is just about empty.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've been. I think this will run for about 20 minutes. So hey, if you're walking a mile today, congratulations.
You've walked 1 mile.
If there's one thing you learned from this podcast, please no.
Please take away. If there's anything you take away.
1 mile is roughly about 20 minutes walking.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys are excited for Fiasco.
Very exciting. Later, y'all.
Later.
Thanks for listening.
Hi, and thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then we'd really appreciate if you left us a review. If you really like what we do here and want to support us further, you can join us at patreon.com/tinytablepodcast. Our business email is also open for inquiries at tinytablebusiness@gmail.com, and all of our socials can be found in the episode description for any shenanigans you might want to follow. Till next time, see ya! Hi, welcome to the Shout Out Corner. We'd like to shout out EG and congratulate them on their recent marriage to Elliot and Stardew Valley. I hope you guys have a happy life.